project management is a topic that a lot of people have heard about, but when you ask them, hey, what is project management? You know the answer, Brittney? You know the answer I get a lot?
What?
I get an answer I don't know.
Hmm.
But don't you think that's a little bit untrue because they are actually project managers? I know you and I share this same philosophy that everyone is a project manager. So can you give some background to that philosophy, Brittney, so people understand?
Yeah, I always say we're all project managers, a lot more in our personal lives, honestly, than in our business lives. We just don't even realize that we're doing it. So once we highlight some of these key knowledge areas, I think people will be a lot more inclined to agree with us.
Absolutely. So there are 10 areas of knowledge in project management, and we're going to just go over these with you. And we have a fun mnemonic for you. And the mnemonic goes something like, I saw six chipmunks quietly roasting coffee, reading poetry stories. It's kind of outrageous. But the first letter is I, and I is for integration. And integration has to do with what, Brittany? What is an integrator?
That is the coordination hub. It's all about pulling all things together from different places, different activities to ensure they work harmoniously towards the project goal. So
Absolutely.
if you think about it pragmatically, honestly, if you're planning a trip, I like to use this example in some of my trainings. If you're planning a family trip, right? You're going to go to Disney World or something. You need to understand all of your different family members' schedules. You need to
Mhm.
understand what your family budget is. You need to understand the key logistics of where you're going, how you're getting there, where how you're traveling, and then you need to know what to pack. So
Mm.
those are all different areas that you have to integrate in order to have a successful family vacation. On the business side of things, if you're planning a huge board meeting or for those of you project managers out there, you're planning the launch of a product. You have to coordinate across all areas of the business. So
Mm.
yeah.
That's a great example. And honestly, Brittany, let's move to this area that is kind of interesting one. Have you ever been on a vacation with family or friends and they suggest a bright idea that wasn't part of the initial plan, but they add in an idea and it just bombs and it doesn't work? And maybe sometimes it does. But this brings up the next topic, which is scoping out the
Yeah.
project, deciding what to do and deciding what is off limits.
Yeah.
So, what exactly is scope in a real world setting? Can you just break that down for us?
That is all about defining what the work is and what the work is not. In Agile, we take a little bit of flexibility there with determining what is included in the scope further down the road than we do in traditional project management, or I should say waterfall project management. But we often start off with one plan, plan A, and we also have like plan 8.2 or 8.3. And then later on down the road, we're halfway into the vacation and someone wants to go to like, I don't know, integrate plan Z.1. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, as Phil said. But all about defining what is within scope, what is the project goal, and then what is outside of the scope, what is not our project goal, what we're tabling until later, and what we're not even touching at this point in time.
Good deal. And honestly, Brittany, the more scope you add, the more likely it is that you run out of time. Have you ever had a number of things to do and you're working on one thing and you get this bright idea, let me add something else. And when you add that other thing, before you know it, you are running out of time to get either done. And that brings us to the next topic, which is schedule management. So what
Well,
exactly is that?
schedule is what it is. It's a schedule, honestly, managing the project's timeline. Funny, the example that you just gave about adding more scope and running out of time. I am a toddler mom. I am a toddler boy mom of a soon-to-be 3-year-old. And I use this example all the time. My 2-year-old, 3-year-old has no concept of a scope. So if I say, Amari, get dressed, we're going to the library, we're going to be out the door in 50 minutes. He's like, but mommy, I want to grab my MF Doom action figure and I got to shampoo my lavender whale's hair. And then I want to brush my teeth, but not only with my toothpaste, but I want to brush it with mommy's toothpaste. And I'm like, hey, every single thing that you just added, right, is going to add on an additional 10 minutes. So you think about your timeline, schedule management, like
Yeah,
that 50-minute time box that I set for my 2-year-old. And you think about going outside of that schedule management
isn't
with
it? That's
all those
crazy.
little detours that that little toddler wanted to take. So,
That's a really great example, which takes us to the concept of imagine you were paid $1 for every minute you spend on, in this example, this project you're talking about. When you add scope and the schedule becomes bloated, there's something else that could become bloated. So imagine if you're paying yourself $1 for every minute you spend, then you're spending more time than you bargained for, which will
oh,
cost more money. And this takes us into the world of cost management, which is all about managing the budget. But first of all, you got to set the budget. See, the
yeah,
problem with a lot of people is they're like, oh, I spent too much. Well, maybe they didn't have a plan. So in cost management, we first estimate how much
yeah,
will each little thing cost. And when I add them up, what
yep,
what will the budget be? And that's where you can, in planning, you can massage the budget a little bit. But once you're out of the gate and you've decided this is how much I'm going to spend, then it's too late to want to add more, even though you could, but maybe you shouldn't. Have you ever been to the store, your favorite store? Like, I'm a musician and sometimes I go to my favorite music stores and by the time I'm done, I've hemorrhaged more money than I cared to because I didn't have a barriers to say, this is how much I'm going to spend. And on projects, this is what happens when you're not keeping an eye on the budget. You just go far over. You ever had any of those experiences in the real world, Brittnee?
absolutely. What? I just mentioned to you that I am a mom. I'm a toddler mom at that. What? 2 words, people, Target and Amazon.
Oh dear.
I don't even, I listen, if you work with me, we will definitely establish and estimate out a budget, right? And we will make sure you stay on budget for your projects or for prepping for the exam. However, in my real life, the concept of estimating the budget before I go into these things. So my project cost management is always inflated. So here we go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, sometimes, you might want to ask the question, should like my kid, like she's grown now, but when I would take her to the store, she would have a meltdown if she want to get what she wants. And I'm like, that's out of budget. They don't understand the concept of budget at all. Everything.
No, no. And then this brings us into the next topic because I could stay on this for a while, but quality, right? Can't tell you how many times, right? I will take my toddler into the Target, right? And he will want we'll set a budget. I will set a budget for, one, call it a Spider-Man, like basketball or something, right? And it's like the really nice Spider-Man basketball that he says that he wants, and he's seen it, and we'll be prepping like leading up to this Target trip. But when we get there, he will want something that's like not of the same quality at all. It's way more low quality. It's gonna like, I don't know,
Wow.
unravel within like 2 seconds of coming out of the store, but it's kind of the same price point. Right.
Mm,
And so he's smart now. He's almost 3. He notices the cost, right, of each. But he doesn't understand the quality and the context that that
mm.
brings. So next knowledge area is the
Interesting.
quality. He'll have
That
a
is very
meltdown.
interesting.
Which,
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I
yeah,
never really thought about quality in that lens, but you bring up a good point, Brittany, because quality is in the eye of the stakeholder.
yep,
And if the stakeholder, your son in this case,
yep,
feels, I want to be satisfied, because quality is 4 things. It's fitness for use, conformance to requirements, customer satisfaction,
yep,
and
yep.
Kaizen, which is change for the better. But let's talk about customer satisfaction. If you had gotten even the most expensive basketball in the store, he would not be satisfied. So
No,
quality is many things. It's
yeah.
interesting.
Exactly. Even down to, and if you want to think about it more technically, right? even down to the way that I am ensuring that I'm staying within the budget, right? There's a
Mm,
process for the way that I'm ensuring that I'm spending the money. So if I am to sacrifice or go outside of the scope, let's use technical terms, if I'm going outside of the
right.
scope, getting him a lower quality basketball,
Mm,
that might, make me have to change the process that I
mm,
put forth, which overall goes back to quality, right? Quality is
that's
all about
true.
ensuring that our processes that we set in place are working effectively, as
That's
well as the
the
customer
point.
satisfaction. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, very good point, Brittany. And
yeah,
I'm sure those people who are going more into the world of PMP, they'll begin to think about what you said because we can have quality in terms of a product meeting requirements and being fit for use. And if you deviate from what was stated, you need a change order of some sort so that
yes,
the paper trail is
yeah,
in place. You
exactly.
just got to cover yourself as organizations. When the customer says, "Well, I prefer less quality," okay, you sure? You might
Hey,
write this down somewhere.
let's document this,
There
right?
you go.
Let's manage our knowledge.
There you go. There you go. And then the next area, Brittany, which comes into play, not in order, but all of this is associated with project management, is the resources. And when we say resources, the funny thing, a lot of people often think about, well, money is a resource. No, no, no. Money is in the cost area. When we talk
Yeah,
about resources, we're talking about human, equipment, material, supplies, and facilities. And one of the things that always comes to mind, not because I'm a foodie or anything, is resources for dinner or resources for breakfast. Because when
yes.
you think about it, you need eggs, sugar, milk, flour, whatever it is
Yeah.
to create whatever you're doing in the kitchen. But when you think about resources, what comes to your mind, Brittany?
Honestly, the toddler example. I can continue down this line. There's like
Mm,
no shortage of stories, but I think if we're sticking with my toddler being in Target, right, with the Spider-Man example, or the basketball example, a resource that comes to mind is my car. Honestly, how are we
oh,
getting to the store, to
mm,
buy to accomplish, Project Spider-Man basketball? Like, how are we going to get to the store to do that? How are we, what are we going to use? Like, what method of payments am I going to use? Not
mm,
so much the quantity or the amount. It's like you said, that's back in cost management, but the resources, the materials, right, to
mhm.
effectively execute the task
Yeah,
purchasing.
a shopping cart.
Yeah, shopping cart. Yeah, yeah. And then also the more important, or not more important, but the equally important piece to the resources part, right, is the stakeholders. So
Yeah, yeah,
myself as the project manager, and
that's
then
right.
my son as my primary customer, right?
That's
So
right.
if I
We all
have
have a part.
project team members, my husband, he's not there at the moment, right? But I'm constantly communicating with him, which the next
Yes,
one, I won't get there, but constantly communicating with him as a member of my project team, keeping him informed.
that's right.
So yeah.
That's a great way of looking at it. I love the toddler example, and I'm sure everyone can relate to that. And let's go to the next level because you talked about constantly communicating, which takes us to the next one, which is communications. And
Yes.
communications is really just keeping everyone informed, distributing information, giving everyone a heads up, and then looking in the rearview mirror and saying, was that a good way of communicating? Should I have used face to face? Should I have
Yep.
used phone? Should I have just sent a text? So it
Yeah.
all depends on the urgency. How do you see communication, Brittany?
Yeah, exactly like that. Exactly like that. So we have something that we like to call RACI chart. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, forgot what the
Consult.
consult and inform. Yes. So we always have different levels to how we're communicating with our different stakeholders. And funny, a lot of people that I talk to about this, they don't think that that applies to the actual project teams, right? That you're working with, but it definitely does. So communication, you have to take into account your internal project stakeholders, but also your external project stakeholders, our customers.
That's true.
That are external to our organization that we're also communicating with. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And let's talk about the trip to the grocery store, to the Target or whichever store it is. Imagine you get on the road and a crazy individual cuts you off to the point that you almost have a crash. True story. I've had a crash as a result of that. But
Oh,
imagine that almost happened, right? You got to
hmm.
ask yourself under those circumstances, how am I going to manage such an uncertain event?
Yeah,
If I run into a dangerous episode on the freeway, what am
yeah,
I going to do? And that takes us into risk, which is our next topic. Risk management is just uncertainty management, managing uncertainty that could impact the project positively or negatively. A lot of times I tell people a little bit of risk management could save your life. Because,
yeah.
out here in Arizona, we have crazies, and they're packing heat, and you definitely don't want to get into a confrontation on the freeway because you never know what's going to spring out of the glove compartment. So I often
Wow.
joke, yeah, honestly, I often joke, just have a little bit of risk management, avoid, right? Avoid. So don't engage, just avoid,
Yes.
avoid the risk by first of all, go at the right speed. Then true story, I've gotten a ticket in the past, and I didn't manage the uncertain event of being given a ticket properly. I was going a little bit too fast, a little bit hard on that pedal. So
Yeah.
in the world of project management, we need to have a way of managing uncertainty that could impact your project positively or negatively. It could be on the freeway, or it could just be the uncertainty of the weather. It
Yeah.
could rain if you delay your trip to Target. And then what happens if you delay your trip? You never hear the end of it for the rest of the day. You're going to have a wailing toddler all throughout the house. So how do
Exactly.
you view risk in your lens, Brittany?
I always think of risks as, and this is a throwback to our boot camps in the past, but risk is something that has not occurred yet, right? So we are managing our expectations and putting a plan in place for something that has not actually materialized, something that has not occurred. And one thing that I always like to take into account for is managing the risk that the customer is not happy with a
Mm.
deliverable or they're not happy with the quality
Oh
of
yeah.
how processes are going. So I always like to plan for, yes, physical risks and
Mm.
overages and
Mm.
schedule risks, but also customer satisfaction, quality management, things of that nature. So
That's a brilliant, brilliant way of bringing all those concepts in because you have a risk of a stakeholder being unhappy, a risk of many other things happening, and it's really just managing all of those uncertain events. So over the
also
past number,
sorry, I was
go
just
on,
gonna
Brittany.
say, we are talking about our project knowledge areas, right? But we have something else called our process groups,
Process
5
groups.
process groups. So when I think about risk, right, I always think about it from a planning risk or planning
Mm.
angle. So first process group is called planning and project management. When I'm planning, I am doing my due diligence as we all should be doing in this stage, but to getting to know our stakeholders, right? And their level
Mm.
of risk tolerance and their level of excitement, right? About the
Mm.
project and our goal going in, how they're feeling about it. So when I'm thinking about that, in the very beginning, before we were even getting started, I'm taking into account that risk management for customer satisfaction there as well. And that goes back to doing your due diligence and knowing your stakeholders and how they feel about your project before you even start it. That can help you
Mm.
in the long run.
That's a brilliant segue, Brittany, because risk, as we've said, could touch everything, and you need to plan, be proactive, because you're right. In risk, we have 7 processes, and out of those 7, 5 are in planning. Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
5. That's
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
A
Good point.
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after risk, what comes next?
There is procurement management. So that's all about how you are actually purchasing the products or the services or the results needed to be successful on your project. So this involves any type of contract, vendor processes, suppliers. So you're talking about conducting procurements. We talk a lot about RFIs, RFPs on the government contract side, controlling procurements.
I
Oh,
know people are going to pull their hair out, Brittany. What's
I
what's
know.
You've
I
introduced some
know.
alphabet soup that's going to make people scratch their head.
I
So
know.
RF, what is, it
Re-
sounds like radio frequency, something.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Again, I'm in DC, guys. So we have acronyms for everything. Request for information.
Okay.
And then we have RFP, request for proposal.
Okay. I'm all
Um,
right now.
Yes, yeah. So I could go down the line, but basically all you need to know is it's an organization or an entity putting out a call for, they're saying basically, hey, we want to buy something or we think we might want to buy something for one of our projects in the future. We either need you, A, to provide us with some information based on your expertise into how much this might cost. So that's the RFI side. Or we need to actually accept proposals from you so that we can choose, the best price that we want to pay. So that's the RFP side. Um, and all of this is under the procurement management knowledge area.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. So let's think about it as you always do, Brittney, in real world. So
Yeah.
assuming you're looking at doing some home improvement in the kitchen and you decide, am I going to do it all by myself? Because some people, they're very good at doing it themselves. Or you could ask the question, should I just consult it out or should I consult little pieces? Maybe it's just going to be the countertops that I consult out. I contract it out to a vendor, to someone, but I do all the others. The moment you decide to do any piece outside of your own resources, bringing someone in to do it, we're now talking about procurement. So anytime you want to get a service or a good, we're talking about procurement. And the RFP, RFIs that you talked about are very important because without those, the vendors won't know that there is such an opportunity. And then when all is said and done, Brittney, what is the final area in project management that we have to talk about?
Stakeholders. And this is my favorite piece because it is the people. If you can't
Mm.
tell, I'm a people person, y'all. I love interacting and collaborating across all different people, groups, organizations. And really, the stakeholders are integral. They're the main part to any successful project or any, honestly, in anything that you're doing, whether it's a project or not, any task. The people
Mm,
are what matters. In Agile,
that's true.
it's all about people and customer satisfaction over processes and tools.
Mm.
So stakeholder, in my little agile heart, this is my favorite management process. So anything from communicating with stakeholders, analyzing expectations, managing their expectations, going back to that risk management of stakeholders, doing your due diligence to really understand who they are before going into this. This is all about managing your stakeholders, engaging them in project decisions and execution. Anything
Mm.
to do with your people, both internal and external to your organization or to your project team. That is what we mean when we say stakeholder management.
Great stuff, Brittany. So we've talked about a lot, and I'm hoping that people have been able to absorb it. But let's show them a little cheat sheet here. Hopefully, the cheat sheet's going to help them. So when you take a look at our cheat sheet here, we have integration because this is a juggler. He's a jester. He's going to be juggling a lot of things. So integration is the overall coordination. That's your little gesture there. And then we have scope, like a telescope. What happens when you look through the telescope? It becomes clearer. Then we
Mhm.
have schedule, which is really just like keeping on time. That's a clock. When we talk about cost, it's your wallet. We talk about quality, it's giving ratings of 5 stars, or just think of a rosette. You think of resources, it's that hand. You've seen that picture of the hand holding the earth, protect the resources. But on this project management line, we're thinking about human equipment, materials, supplies, facilities, communications is a phone, risk is a dice, of course, with a BDI stakeholder looking on, because stakeholders have different risk tolerance levels. So you always need to call in stakeholders when you're talking about risks or identifying risks. Procurement is a water money right there because you're going to purchase something. And then stakeholder, he's holding a slab of steak to to remind you that it's a stakeholder. And that's just one of the really fun parts of project management. We get to do all this creative stuff because it can be very nebulous, Brittany. Let's be honest, it can be a very heavy topic. And
Yep.
that's why we want to give people easy to remember visuals so that they get the concept, they anchor it back to a ridiculous picture like the jester juggling the balls, and it just makes it easier for them. But Brittany, let's move a step further and talk about how project managers actually manage the projects. Do they just manage it all in their heads? What are some of the tools that a PM could use? Because you are Mrs. Tools, right? You got all these fancy tools. I know you love Asana. I know
Love
you love
Asana.
all of those your little gadgets. So
Yep.
share some ideas with everyone.
Yeah. So I do a lot of strategy nowadays in my work around systems and what are the systems or the tech stack that we're using to manage our projects or manage our lives, our businesses, whatever it may be. As Phil said, I love Asana. Love Asana. Got to figure out a way to partner with Asana because I love it so much. But I
Tag
love
him. Let's tag
Asana.
him in this. We'll tag him in this LinkedIn and this YouTube, Brittany, and maybe they'll get a wind of your enthusiasm about their tool because I've been hearing
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. So one of the, I have a very different approach to thinking about this as I'm a little bit more removed from my PMP certs. But for me, the tech stack in managing a project is all about knowledge management. It's rooted
Mhm.
in knowledge management. And it goes back to communication. Under knowledge management is communication. It's, dealing with your stakeholders. It's how are you sharing the information and the knowledge across your different business hubs or groups or organizations. And so it's all about how you're integrating that knowledge. So Asana is one tool because data visualization or project process visualization is huge for me. And using a Kanban board, Asana has
Mm.
different project views. So I rely heavily on like the Kanban board view. Some people rely heavily on the calendar view. I know there's Monday.com is another project tool for managing projects. Microsoft projects, maybe that's a little old school for some people. Jira for all you software developers out there, you got your ticketing systems. So I would say that. Another key tool, and I kind of mentioned this with Asana, is your calendar, right? So how are you keeping on schedule? And how is that able to integrate right into your board view or wherever your
Mm.
main view of managing a project is, right? So for me personally, I use Asana. I use a tool to integrate it with automatically with my Google Calendar. And then I have customized fields that kind of link everything together as I go throughout a project. Um, there's a couple other tools or systems that I could go into, but I'll stop there and get your thoughts, Phil.
Yeah, that's extremely helpful. I know a lot of people, they're kind of tippy-toeing into the water, just trying to get a better understanding of project management. So this might be a lot of firepower for them. But I also wanted to give some perspectives as far as maybe just basic Excel, just say Excel 101, or even better, Brittany, because people don't like paying Microsoft their 365 subscription. So a lot of people go on Google Sheets. So
Oh yeah.
maybe I should just show a little Google Sheet, how you can manage projects without breaking the bank.
Yeah.
So to manage projects without breaking the bank, you can think of it like this. So here's a list of different things you could have right there in Excel, right? You could have a project charter. As you can see, we have a project charter that authorizes the project. It
Yeah.
breaks down the overview of the project, the justification, the high level scope, the high level milestones. How much are you going to spend on it? All of this is common sense, but it's organized common sense, right?
Yeah.
Assumptions and constraints, any risks at a high level, who is in the project organization, what are their names, and what is the client information. Boom, a very high level project charter. And we have them in different shapes and sizes. Here's another type of a project charter with an example. Here's a blank template so you can see it's not as intimidating. It's quite small when you break it down. So that's one of the holy grail documents of PMI. No charter, no project, right? Here's a stakeholder register, which
Yeah.
you would put in all these stakeholders Brittany's always talking
Yeah.
about. You put in their name, their title, contact
Yeah.
information, and you can just keep being creative as far as what information you glean from your
Yeah.
stakeholders. And then the last one that I really want to point out is having a project management plan. So this
Yeah.
is a plan for how to collect the requirements, how to manage the scope, as you can see over here, how to manage the schedule, and you've got some high level milestones. How are you going to manage the cost? What is the cost at a high level? Quality at a high level, resources, communications, how are you going to communicate with the stakeholders? And then we have risk, how are you going to manage the risks, procurement, and
Yeah.
stakeholder, and then mention of baseline. So all of this can be fit into one cohesive document. Now, beyond
I-
this, go on, Brittany.
No, no, no. Go ahead. I'll let you finish this.
Oh, so beyond this, I was just saying that we have many other potential documents. We have a team charter for how the team is going to behave, how they are going to follow ground rules. We have just different I could go on and on, but I hope this gives people an idea that we're not just flying by the seat of our pants, right? We have things like a WBS,
Yeah.
as you can see here, that breaks down the work into smaller pieces just to make sure we've really thought through every step. Some projects will benefit more from this than others. If it's a short project of 1 or 2 days, it might not be prudent to spend so much time building a fancy Gantt chart like this or having a very laborious change request process. As you can see, we have change logs, we have a process for a change request, we have team charters, we have reports, 4-up reports, detailed reports, as you can see, or very high level summary reports. We have communications plans. That's the RACI Brittany was mentioning a little while ago, a RACI chart. You have those in there as well. You have plans for your resources. And I could go on and on, but again, it's really more about tailoring. For those of you who want to kind of tippy toe into the world of documentation and project management, you could go to projectmanagementdoctor.com/30 day and just click on the free repository. We got a repository of free sample project management documents. And here are many, many documents. A number of these were made available by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And that link is no longer available. So I put them all into this one little repository, and you
Mhm.
can go in there, download them, and play with them. And again, it's projectmanagementdoctor.com/30 day. I think that will help those who have zero experience in this world, Brittany. So
Yeah.
those,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's super, super helpful. I sometimes forget that I am talking to a more introductory, level to project management. When I was talking about my Asana, that's more advanced. But before I was fancy and before I was, systems queen over here, I honestly used and did a lot of work in Google Docs, honestly.
ah,
And I've been really, really impressed. So this Phill and I, we go back and forth a lot of the time. Phill, if you will allow me to share.
yes,
He, often gives the more formal approach to things, and
yes.
then I come back in and say, "Oh, well, here's a more modern way to do things." So just from a pragmatic perspective, for those of you that are literally just starting out and you have something to manage today or tomorrow, if you needed a little bit more of a casual approach to doing things, I've been really, really impressed with Google's suite in there and how they've been building out their new drive. I'm trying to figure
Mm.
out. Um,
Are you going
my,
to share it with us, Brittany?
yes, I'm trying to get to like my share. It's hidden. Sorry, I have like five.
No problem.
My toolbar
No worries.
is in the way. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Get out of the way, toolbar.
You gotta love it.
I know, I know.
That Zoom toolbar, they need to do something with that as well.
Well, exactly. I know we wanted to only take 15 minutes, but I do want to show you, I think it's like super valuable.
Yeah,
Where is it? Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. Sorry,
no
sorry.
problem. So, Brittany, what we're looking at here seems to be Google Docs. What good could come out of Google Docs? Tell us.
Yeah. So we were previously discussing how for novice project managers trying to learn more about how project management works, tools they could use. As project managers, we use a lot of tools and systems. And I had previously shared how I love to use more sophisticated tools like Asana, Monday.com, formal project management tools. But for those that are not that advanced yet, and you only have access to, or not only, but you just want to use things that you're more familiar with, Phill showed you how you could do it in Excel. However, I am a fan. I mean, like kind of low-key obsessed with Google's recent innovations to their Google Drive in their Google Docs features. So I have been using Google Docs in more of my personal projects. And where I have stakeholders that are not necessarily formal project managers and they don't have access to those tools that I was previously talking about. And I don't want to spend the time, quite frankly, training them and onboarding them onto Asana. So what I have been tending to do recently, literally, I just used one last week, is building an entire project plan in the Google Drive suite using Google Docs and their custom building blocks functionality, as well as some other features. And I just kind of want to show you guys, walk you through how to do something like that here. So you can literally take this and, do this in your spare time, or maybe I'll just share this as a general template and you can feel free to access it, for free whenever you need it. But yeah, so let's start. So right here on my screen is a blank Google Drive, Google document in my Google Drive. Yeah, Google Doc in my Google Drive, blank, just opened it. And I have titled it Build a Project Plan in Google Docs, right? So when you think about the basic components of a project plan, we won't go super in depth here, but I am going to title this first tab. Let me rename it basic, or no, not basic. I don't like the word basic. Let's title it Simple Project Plan. All right. So you think about the most simple requirements of a project plan and what you need to make this happen. So the first section here is going to be, I like to start with an introduction. Introduction, if I can type. introduction and overview, right? And this is me. You can, again, customize this to however however you want to reflect this in your organization. Introduction and overview. Let's talk through project goals. Project. Oh,
He's saying we're going too hard, Brittnee. He's saying we've done too much.
Well, so you've heard me reference, I'm a systems strategist, and part of my way of staying on task and successful in my day-to-day life is scheduling breaks, scheduling my day.
Pomodoro method in some way. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you want to see what my actual calendar looks like, we can do that, and then but maybe that's another video, Phil.
Definitely.
Heading 1, let's see. So I like this, and I did this as a title. So I like to use Google's built-in functionality to keep everything consistent. And you can go through and customize how, your fonts, all of those things. But let me see. Let me just call this simple project plan. Make this the title. And I like to just do this all up front. Yes, it's a lot of legwork, but you want things to be as consistent and organized as possible. So project goals, project scope, project timeline, stakeholders. We'll stop here for now. Make sure you apply all heading 1s to these. And let me just add project to keep it consistent. Okay, so you'll see here on the left, as you apply the heading or formatting functionality, that is what guides your document tabs here on the left. And so as you're adding in, right, introduction and overview section, just give a little bit of background. Give a little background on the origin of your project, why it's important to your business or organization, and how it manifested. This is also, Phil, maybe you can help me out here, where like in typical project management terminology, but some of the more formal project documents, business case,
business
here,
case, benefits plan.
Yep. So yeah, here, introduction and overview, project goals is,
it's like your project charter, really.
Yep, project charter. Yeah. Here, let me put this here. Project charter. Project goals, simple. What you want to accomplish, and you can, do this out. Goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, XYZ. Here, make that pretty simple. Project scope. We know what a scope is, or you will learn what a scope is. What's included in the project, what's not included in the project. And again, we're just starting off with, simple explanations here, and then I'll go on to show you how we're going to build this out using Google's custom building blocks and their expanded feature functionality for sharing and collaboration. But project timeline, let's leave this blank because I'm definitely going to use a custom block for that. And then project stakeholders here, let's leave that blank as well, for now. So introduction and overview, yeah. we're just going to have a little bit of background here. Project goals, what you want to accomplish, project scope, what's included, project timeline. So here, right, what we're going to do is you can either press the @ sign to bring up this expanded functionality that Google has. And I always like to scroll down to the building blocks section. And you're going to click the expand arrow over here. Sometimes it'll say more. And here, take a break. Thank you. See, my system is working, guys. See all building blocks. You want to click this to kind of bring up this expanded feature over here to the right. And as you can see, right, there's a whole project management section for tools and things that you can use here that I like to incorporate into these simple project plans using my Google Docs. So for the project timeline, I am going to do project roadmap, content launch tracker. We can do something like a content launch tracker. It's called that there, but hold on, let me just make sure that I'm not skipping over an actual timeline. No, I'm not. Okay. So in project management, you have the option to do the content launch tracker, right? And you can customize this as well. So we're not calling this the content launch tracker. We're calling this the schedule or timeline, whatever you want to call it, right? And over here, you can do, milestones. You can do, break this out. So do kind of a scaled down version of a WBS, which is a work breakdown structure, where you highlight the work packages over here, or milestones, and then you can scale down to the next level, which is the tasks, or any other level that you want to have here. So milestones, tasks, you want to have the date, and they have these little date chips that you can do. Published, I'll say status here instead of published. And then I'll get rid of this outlet. I'll get rid of this row because we don't really need that. Delete row. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I meant to delete the column instead. Delete the column. This is all about, and then content, I would call this resources, or for my creatives out there that need a simplified version of this in your work, I tend to call my things assets. My marketing people, shout out to y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Assets, resources, and you can link here. And then I also like to incorporate another column to the right of this. I like to have a notes section, especially if you're going to be using this to collaborate with multiple different stakeholders. So let's just kind of pop this down to the next page. So everything will be on one for purposes of my demonstration. Okay, so for milestones, right? I'm gonna say kickoff call. And then the task for the kickoff call, one of the tasks is gonna be send calendar invite. So anything in your task backlog that pertains to a kickoff call, what else? Send calendar invite, finalize agenda, obtain agenda approval. We always want to have something like that in there. You can put specified dates of when these things need to be done. Right here. Okay, that will automatically populate, automatically update. And then you want to edit the options. So I always, customize it. Again, this is a simple project plan that you can customize to use in the real world with whatever project or scope of work that you're working on, right? So template name is going to be, I'm just going to call this a status. So if I want to reuse it, Google also does a great job of indexing this and archiving your pre-made templates. So you can call on these later on if you need them. But I'm going to make my options status started, or let's call it actually backlog. Use my agile terminology. Backlog, in progress. And let's have a new option that says completed, published. Again, for my marketing people out there. So backlog, I have that. Great. In progress. Let's go with the nice yellow. And then completed. Let's do green. You can even have prettier colors. I like to customize my colors. And I'll also say overdue. Let's have another option that says overdue, because we always need that when we're communicating with multiple people.
That's good. Yeah.
Apply to all. And as you can see in the status, now that you've customized your options and you've clicked that, you have the option for each of the status buttons to choose between the different statuses. So files, right? So the calendar invite. Another great item that I love about Google in this upgraded functionality is instead of a file, right? I can do and I can actually tag an invite that I have set up. So it will draw from your actual calendar. So this is a great way to keep everything organized and on track and streamlined. Call with Phill. Now let's do film for 20 minutes with Britt. Here we go. This is like this meeting that we're on. So instead of like the file, this is what I mean when I say resources or assets, right? You might want to link a file, but if it's about a calendar invite, you might want to just click this. So any of the stakeholders that get access to this project plan in the future, right? They might not have started off as a member of the project team or as a project stakeholder in the beginning, so they weren't included on the initial invite here. However, as you're adding stakeholders, you're going to give them access along the project as the project is in progress, right? They would see the option, they would see that there has been a weekly, project call scheduled, and here is the invite for that. And they can easily interact with you here, right? They can put a comment right here on the side. Where is the comment option, right? Oh, it's right here. Okay. So they can add a comment. Someone, that's added later to the project can say, hey, such and such, can you invite me to the weekly project update call comment? And they can also they can add you. Let's add ourselves. Like let's assign that as a task to ourselves. So there you go. Right? They can tag you in it. Tag is the word I was looking for. And then there's notes, right? So when you add them, you can reply here, done, or I don't know, we'll send just any type of an update here in the notes section. So here, that is our first, and I'm trying to figure out how I can maybe the width of my page is minimized because
it's portrait, so one can always make it landscape in the view, I guess.
Let's see, because there is another
or format, maybe.
Yeah, there's another mode that is like
orientation.
Switch to pageless. This is this is what I love. Oh gosh. Okay. So
that's nice.
The pageless format in Google, it has been a game changer for me, as I like to customize everything. So I am a project manager, have a PMP. However, I've always largely worked with my PMP and project management in more creative spaces, for more creative projects. And I am an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. The way my brain works is I'm constantly ideating and innovating on concepts and such that have not been created yet. So I've always created my custom versions of, PMI's formal project documents and their approach to project management. And so tools like Google Docs and these custom building blocks and the ability to kind of just create and customize these assets to however I need to use them have been a game changer for me. So I hope this is helpful for you as well.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable
Finalize.
how much stuff is missing from
You.
the regular Word document. You don't have any of this in Word.
No, no.
This
And
is so
then
ingenious.
yeah, and the file, right? These are all files from my actual Google Drive. Everything's linked here. So,
Mm,
if you stick to the Google Suite, it just makes it so easy for collaboration. Um,
mm,
Another item that I just kind of wanted to show, and I won't take a long time showing this, but if we go back to our @ sign, right, we can use these smart chips. Um,
mm.
we can use a placeholder chip. I'm gonna say a drop down, but say if you need just something quick, you can just kind of customize this, right? And I probably could have used this here, or over here, but yeah, you don't have to use a whole block. You can use the chips instead. So again,
Okay.
we're gonna do the @ right? If you need a quick date, like if you're writing a line or a sentence or something and you want to reference a date, here you go. You can use
Mm,
a date.
fantastic.
Yep. Instead, you're gonna click a date.
It's like they really thought through this, and there's a widget or a feature for every aspect of managing a project, especially under the project management menu that you showed, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It's everything. Okay, like a task tracker. So this is what I would use honestly for task tracking, but also just my stakeholder
Mhm.
management to
And the team directory will be a good one as well. The one,
yeah, team
yeah,
directory. Yeah, yep,
yeah.
team directory. So here you go, project
Brilliant.
stakeholder, team directory, especially like in this virtual world we
Mm,
live in.
mhm.
We're working with project teams all around the world, right? You can keep in the location and it actually maps to a location if you give it an address.
Mm.
Or you can just stick to, a general location and it'll give you that as well. Another one, like I was saying, that I like to use under, here we go. It's already over here, expanded, that I like to use under project stakeholder is the task tracker. So, you can add the task, so you can assign it, right? So up here, I did a general schedule or timeline, right? But if we want to get more detailed, down here, you can actually build out an entire work breakdown structure, but in a list or table format here, if you needed to. But you can assign different people. So I'm going to assign myself a task. Um, Create simple plan template, right? I can give myself a due date for that here. And then before the next project, status meeting, I can come in, right? And I can instruct my stakeholders from the very beginning. Every week before our project status meetings, you want to come in here and you want to update, the status of all your tasks, where we are on all your tasks. You want to do that, you can give them a deadline. You can even make that a weekly task, right? And assign it to each of your project stakeholders to come in by 24 hours ahead of the meeting, 11 a.m., the day before, update all of your statuses, and provide a note. Again, I want to always have a little notes column here so that if you want to provide any additional context, you can give them the opportunity to do so. And have that be a set expectation. Include that in your project charter or your team charter for how your project team is going to work together prior to, launching the work. So just kind of wanted to give you an overview and show Phill too, because I know a lot of people don't know about this expanded functionality. And then, right, for meetings. So another one that I wanted to show, and I could go on and on and on about this, but for meetings, a lot of project managers or a lot of people in general, they, learn how to make a project plan, right, and launch it and kick it off, but they get anxiety about actually leading a project, like in real time, working with your organization to bring a scope of work into fruition through a project process over a defined period of time. And so just pragmatically, right, when you think about how you're sharing updates, your weekly meetings, what those look like, you want to be prepared, have a template already ready. So here, I've created another tab, right, that you can use during your meetings. And this is to capture any shared meeting notes, right? If you don't want to do it directly on the project plan, if it gets too cumbersome, you want to keep that more formal so that you can easily export that, send to whoever, and it's not overloaded with notes and everything. You can create meeting notes that you can have in different tabs within the same document, right? So it's the work in the project documentation is all staying together. It's all streamlined here. But on your weekly calls, right? Here, I wanted to show you guys, I'm going to just delete that, right? So you start with a blank tab again. And then what you want to do is press the @ sign, and I always type in meeting notes, and it will give me the option to search my calendar for an event that is scheduled to take place in the future or that has already taken place in the past. What it will do is automatically pull up the attendees that are linked to that meeting, and it will give me a pop-up that warns me that I can attach this to the meeting in the calendar. I guess this particular meeting of mine didn't have any attendees, but if I link to one that does, let's find one, the call with Phill. One-on-one, Phill with Brittnee. Okay, here we are. I won't show your address, Phill, sorry. But so here we go, right? Share meeting notes. It would say some attendees don't have access to this document. Meeting attendees won't be notified when sharing this file. I will never, don't ever click don't show again, right? Because you always want it to pop up and remind you when you're doing something like this. But I'm going to click share and attach. This says, people need access, so I can customize the level of access that Phill is getting to this document. I'm going to go ahead and share it with him. It's going to give me another pop-up. I'm going to say share anyway, right? So as long as you're detail-oriented when you're doing this, you won't be sharing with anyone that you don't want to share with. But I would say, yeah. But this is so simple, right? So for this weekly project call, you want to have your agenda. I change the notes part often. If I'm using this in an actual meeting, to my agenda. I change this from bullets to have an actual numbered agenda, project, status, update, new items for discussion. You can put time here. And then document next steps. And so as I am running through this agenda through the meeting, right, there's going to be action items that come up. I can go ahead and document those action items, but even further, I can say update file ahead of next meeting. I can go ahead and create tasks right here in the moment. I'm going to assign this to Phill. Maybe I'll assign it to Phill if he pops up. Okay, maybe I'm not assigning it to Phill. I'm going to assign it to myself, and I'm going to assign it to me to be done in a week, right? So now I've created this as a Google task, and myself as a person, that the assignee, I will be notified that I have tasks to complete. So
That's really awesome.
yeah, this is just a light overview of how you can use a tried and true resource that we all know, Google Docs, Google Drive, to create, a simplified version of a project plan. I mean, and honestly, with the custom blocks, with the
Crazy.
chips,
Yeah.
you can make this as formal as you need
You
to. So,
can. The sad thing, Brittany, is a lot of organizations, they look down on Google and they kind of ban it from their network. But for those who haven't, this is a low cost, low risk. I mean, it is so intuitive. I was so just beside myself when you're showing all these blocks on the right. Oh, it's even got emojis, of course. I
and
mean, this is
Phil,
the way forward.
and like I love collaboration and engagement, right?
Mm, hmm.
As I am, in this document and leading meetings, running meetings from my, Google Docs plan, I'm
Mm,
encouraging my meeting attendees to log on and to engage in this with me, right?
mm,
Some
hmm.
people don't have time, especially if you're using this for perfect example. I am on the leadership team at my church, and I am leading the task to launch a Christian academy in our community. This is all done outside of working hours. This is all done, voluntary. Some of my committee members don't have time to update the status prior to the meeting. So I encourage them throughout the meeting, right, to take 5 minutes. We
Right.
pause, we take 5 minutes of silence. Everyone goes on mute. They open the document, where they have access to it, and they update real time. So, and then
Mm,
we run through it that way. And that is another tool that I, in running, facilitating project meetings that I learned from my time at Amazon, um,
mm,
is having like brain time, if you will. That's what I
yeah.
call it, brain time
Great.
to review or update documents together in the beginning of a meeting on silent, and then we discuss things
Fantastic.
together. So yeah,
Great plan.
yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been an absolutely loaded masterclass on project management. And for it to be a masterclass, doesn't have to be all the advanced stuff. We don't have to show you this one or the
Oh, let me
big
show mine.
brother. You
Hold
got
on.
its big brother. Oh, that one.
What is
We did
mine?
we
Mine is
didn't
mine
even
is the sixth edition, I think.
the sixth edition. We
The
didn't
sixth
even have to
edition.
show you the horrendous. Well, when we say horrendous, we love it, but it's just big. It's bulky. There's mine. It's big. Look at mine, all beat up. It's traveled the world training different firms. So while we love all of this stuff, and Brittany, you've got your notes from
Oh my gosh.
our adventures in with Roy back in the day. Yeah.
From
Yes.
2020. God.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know. But
And,
I often pull, look, I have pages falling out of here. But
it's a
I
good sign.
often pull this out, right? Because
Hmm.
and this is a practice that I like to encourage my mentees to do is to, as you're learning material,
Mm.
paraphrase and take notes
Yeah.
that, so that you can really understand pragmatically what the technical concept that PMI is alluding to, what that means pragmatically, how you would apply it pragmatically. That is how you learn. Take those notes instead of just copying down verbatim with the
Mm.
PMBOK says. Uh,
Yeah.
write in your notes, give a pragmatic application to the term or technique. Because what you will do is 5 years later, when you're training and creating content and engaging with this material, you'll look back at a tab that says Agile Notes from
Mm.
February 20th, 2020. And you will see your version of a risk charter. I have a detailed version of like a risk charter and how that would look in my organization. It's blurry, you can't see it, but I look at this and I know instantly what the context of that
Mm.
conversation was and how I can move
Yeah.
forward and apply it. So.
Fantastic. It's a very good practice. You're very good at note taking and documentation and stuff. And that's why for everyone watching who wants to either take PMI's CAPM exam or PMP exam and you want a one-on-one coach who can take you to that PMP promised land, CAPM promised land, I would recommend that you hit Brittnee up. So you're probably watching this on LinkedIn, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube right now. Just engage with her because she does one-on-one coaching. Some people, Brittnee, they say, I did it all alone. I didn't need a coach. And that's all well and good. But there are a lot of people like me. I wished I had a coach. I just couldn't afford it. But I know
Mhm.
Brittnee has very affordable vehicles for you to get coached, to get mentored. She will hold you accountable. She'll create a custom study plan for you, and she'll
Yeah.
show you how she got certified and help you unravel any of the complexities. Because she's done this for everyone from military and private clients, and she's
Yeah.
shown them how to pragmatize project management. So if
Yeah.
that sounds like something you want, I want you to hit Brittnee up right now on LinkedIn. You're going to find her link somewhere below. If you're on YouTube, you can also find her at the links that we're going to put below so that you can engage. All right. Because I know you want to take it to the next level, or maybe you just want to build a Google project plan like Brittnee showed you. Again, she offers consulting services. You can get her on your calendar and get her
Yeah.
to help you. So, Brittnee, where do they need to go for this? Is there a site as well, or should they just hit you up on LinkedIn?
You can go to LinkedIn for now. Sorry, I'm looking away. I have like 18 different screens, guys. Uh, Exit.
Oh
Let's bring
dear.
you back. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Hey, here we are. You can go to LinkedIn for now, and in my LinkedIn, you will see my Google Bookings link where you can actually request time on my Google Calendar. So,
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, you're looking at one of the best, one of the most pragmatic. So Brittnee not only got certified, she began being a practitioner of what she got certified in by teaching others. Which arm of the military was it? Was it Navy or
yeah, Navy DoD. So,
DOD? Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
DoD.
So
Mm-hmm.
she immediately began teaching, sharing what she knew, and immediately began not only with DoD but also private organizations. So she's the real deal. If you're stuck, if you need help, if you need coaching,
Yeah.
look, this is the person to help you. It's almost as though you have a genie in the bottle telling you what to do, and she'll stop at nothing to get you answers. She's very diligent, very rugged, very dogged, very tough. So if you need someone to get you to that next project management level, or maybe you want to learn Asana, let's not even go there, Brittnee. Please don't open it. But if you want to learn Asana, she'll show you, she'll help you. She'll
Yeah.
help you. All right.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed this. And for those people who I know, some of you made a comment about the stuff that we were sharing towards the end because you were not able to see it. And I did promise you that before we round it up, that Brittnee and I would kind of show you, kind of walk you through what it looks like in a clearer screen because it wasn't clear in the beginning. So let me just give you the top of the waves, and Brittnee, you can just chime in. But I know we're at the tail end, so I'll just give people the top of the waves. And for those of you who had questions, I saw Yancy came on LinkedIn. Yancy, if you got a question, uh, just shoot it to us. Thanks for coming through, and everyone else who came through today, thank you very much. But let me just talk like from the perspective of someone who didn't know any of this until Brittnee began showing it. So what amazed me was right here in Google Docs, of all things, right? Google Docs. When you open up a new Google Doc, you see this, right? Actually, let me start from the beginning. Let me just open up a new document. So this is a brand new document, right? In Google Docs. So it just looks normal at first, and all of a sudden, if you look close, you see this more thing up here. I was beside myself when Brittnee clicked on more, right? And hey presto, on the right hand side, you got meeting notes you can insert, as you can see, right? You got an email draft you can put in there. You got communication that you can do, meeting widgets that you can insert, decision logs. I don't know if you're seeing all of this stuff, decision logs, um, detailed decision logs. And I mean, you see, all of this stuff is just accumulating. You're pretty much making your own system, your own project management system. And then under project management, you've got the regular suspects, a review tracker, just unbelievable, team directory. And Brittnee, I'm curious to know how you even found these things, because who finds buried treasure without being told?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Um, I can't really remember. I think I was like, I'm always working in out of the box or different innovative use cases and examples that for project management. I'm always creating. I'm always having to create new assets and tools and resources, I should say, for my project management work over the years. So I've become accustomed to looking in I wouldn't even say unconventional places, honestly, more like places that everyone has access to that, you know, are not too difficult to learn to use. So pretty sure that is how I was poking around here in the Google Suite.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. But I want to say thank you, Brittnee, for taking time out to show our friends. I know a lot of PMPs are going to see this and say, what? I'm going to use this tomorrow. I'm going to use this immediately, because you showed all these really great features, like you can tag people. You don't need any other fancy tool to manage those very small week long or even month long projects, because project management success is not about the tools. So let's get that straight. Like the elitist PMs who say, well, you're not using Jira, you're a joker. You're not using Microsoft Project, you're a clown. Well, it's not about those tools. If you look at the ancient projects, the Taj Mahal, the Model T, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Pyramids of Giza, none of those used fancy tools like this. This will be light years ahead compared to what they used, but they had good old great determination and horse sense. And sometimes that's what makes it work. These are just the accessories. So as opposed to being fussy about the tools, I just roll with any tool I've got. And this, I want to give a shout out to Google. I'm really impressed at what they've got here. Decision logs that are not really talked about very much, but they are important. Review tracker, team directory, project assignments, project assets, product roadmap. At the snap of a finger, they're all there in Google Docs. So I go on, Brittnee.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that Google is, I don't know, why Google hasn't publicized this more, because if you hadn't brought this up in the meeting, I would not have known they existed.
Yeah, I would even, it's funny, you mentioned the more, the more seasoned PM vets that would say something about not using Jira or Monday.com. I would look at those veterans and laugh and say, why aren't you using something that's more simplistic, honestly?
Yeah.
Because using tools like that are just 100% streamlined and targeted toward a very niche audience, it creates silos, right, within organizations. And if you work in an organization, akin to those that I've worked in, I've always worked in, very heavily matrixed organizations that require a lot of cross collaboration between different organizations, different teams, different processes in various different industries. And it just creates a lot of unnecessary silos, communication breakdowns, collaboration issues when you're using a tool that is just geared toward a very small group of people. So I would argue, why not use something that is more user-friendly, more simplistic to the eye, like a Google Docs, or another tool that I'll plug here is that's similar to this is, the one I'm thinking about, Phil.
Is it free?
Huh?
Is it free?
It's free. Well, it's free. Some organizations, I think you only have to buy a license to use it, but
not Smartsheet.
Is it Smartsheet? Yes, Smartsheet. Smartsheet is what I'm thinking about. Smartsheet's what I'm thinking about. Um, Smart Sheet is
Smart sheet is cool. This though, Brittany, what delights me about this is that it's free. I pay Smart Sheet some money every month, but I don't pay Google money. Actually, they pay me money. I don't pay them money. But I honestly, this it gives me such delight because when I train this to newbies, the question is, how do I manage the data? It's funny that people always consider data to be the most stressful part. I find stakeholders to be the more challenging part. But for
yeah,
data, this is such a great repository. And
it
I
is.
quite like how Google have done it. I don't know if this is part of their Google's project management certification, or whether they've got a place they teach this. I know it's very simple, but it's very profound. It's usually the simple things that are the most powerful. And this, just being able to tag people, as you said, Brittany, cross company, it's just the sky is the limit.
Yeah,
Yeah. We
yeah,
got to do another session, Brittany, with just this. We got to
yeah.
show people how to max it out because it's quite exciting. I can geek out on this stuff all day. But
Agree.
anyway, Brittany, over to you. Let's round up.
I was just gonna say, I see Yancey's comment. Every company has their own PMIS stack. Once you know one software, you can easily adapt to any. I would say just depends. Honestly, that you would think, right? That
Yeah,
lends
you
itself
would
to
think.
once you know
You
one,
would think.
you know
Yeah.
every. But it all goes back to what Phill just said, Yancey. It's about the stakeholders and the actual people that you're working with, and they could have learned the most advanced project management system, but be resistant to learning something that's a little bit more simplistic, or they don't want to take the time, or any other number of reasons. So just
Yeah.
goes back to your stakeholders. So I find the easiest is the best. So oftentimes that is our most well-known tools. So I'm just
Absolutely.
gonna wrap up. Phill, thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. This is so much fun, and yeah, I look forward to connecting with some new people here. So reach out to me, guys, if you need help, project management mentorship, also system strategist. I also run a software company that I use to government contracts. So any number one of these things, I'm open. Yeah.
Hit her up. Thank you, Brittany. All right, my friends. Thank you, those of you who came through. Thank you for the PMP on the call. Thank you, Yancy, for chatting that comment in. We shall see you very soon. You take care and bye.